Okay, so I'll talk to you today about the battery sensor on my 2013 Honda CR-V. This project started because I'm putting a pretty big audio system in the car, so I swapped out the battery for a bigger battery, a nicer battery. So as part of that project, I had to replace the battery terminal, the factory battery terminal, because I'll show you what it looks like. But I learned that there is a battery sensor on this car, and I guess what the battery sensor does is it monitors how much current is actually being pulled from the battery at any given time, and that's going to be different based on whether the AC is running, whether the radiator fan's running, all different scenarios. And based on different factors like that, it'll use the battery sensor to decide what voltage the alternator is going to charge at. Okay, so if you're drawing less current, it's going to charge a slightly lower voltage. A lot more current is going to charge the higher voltage to make sure that it can recharge the battery as it's being depleted. And I guess from what I read, it improves efficiency, fuel efficiency, because if the alternator is only providing exactly what it needs to provide at any given time, then that creates less strain on the engine, which means less fuel used. So I'll show you what we're looking at. So this is the negative terminal from the battery. I've already gotten this far, so I've actually taken this all apart. So if you're looking at this on your vehicle, this is a 2-pin plug here. It's got 2 little pins in there. Can't see them very good right now, but they're in there. And before taking this apart, this would actually be attached right there, and there's a nut that goes on there to tighten that down. This strap here ends up going to this is a ground wire that I cut off. Okay, that wire ends up going to the body ground. This is just the bolt that will tighten the battery terminal. And then as you look at it before you've changed anything, this is actually riveted right here. Okay, so the way this is set up is this, when this is riveted here, this is actually the power input from the battery into the sensor. Okay, and then this here bolts on to the other side of the sensor. There is no electrical connection in between this stud and this negative battery terminal. All of the current that gets drawn from this negative battery terminal has to go through this sensor and then out this stud. Okay, so I'll take this apart now and show you what's going on. So that's a regular nut that would come off. You can pull this off, and that cable, you can just set that out of the way. I've already drilled this rivet out because I'm going to relocate this. I'm going to have to put it back in because it caused the battery light to come on, and I think it also caused the ABS light to come on at the same time. So mine's actually been disassembled. So once you drill that rivet, you can then lift this off. Okay, and now you can see how that really works. And although it looks like this is connected, this stud is connected to this, it really is not. There's actually a plastic filler here. Okay, they're actually not electrically connected. I tried turning this, and it just broke this plastic. So this doesn't really help to turn. That doesn't really get you anywhere. So that's what the actual battery terminal looks like itself. And even though, like I said, it looks like that's connected, looks like that stud would be electrically connected to this, it's really not because of that plastic insulator. So side by side, you've got the battery, the negative battery post feeding into this side of the sensor, and then this side of the sensor feeds what gets attached to this, post, which is your body ground. Okay, and that way this sensor can measure all the current coming out of the battery in the factory scenario. So essentially what I'm going to do, I'll show you the setup that I've done under the hood, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a couple of extra ring terminals and another length of wire, and I'm going to attach a ring terminal to that side and a ring terminal to that side, and I'll be able to put this sensor back in circuit in between the negative battery terminal that I have now and the body ground again. So here's the negative terminal. This is the body ground that ends up down below. It's a little hard to see in the dark here, but that does go down there. That bolt down there is what we're looking at. That's the body ground that it actually ends up attaching to. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a spot where I'm happy with the location of this, and I may have to extend the wires a little bit because this is the 2-pin plug. And normally this reached over here to where the original negative terminal was, but this battery's a little different, so I relocated the wires somewhat. So I'll have to put this someplace I'm happy with it. I'll use a ring terminal from the battery terminal itself to this here, because that connected the battery terminal. And then this wire will have to get extended and use a ring terminal to attach to that. So that way on this lead, everything that comes off, everything that comes out of the battery through this direction, will then have to go through this sensor again. And then that should make the ECM happy again, I hope. And we'll get rid of that light for me. Okay, so I took another look at my plan here. And the way these battery terminals are set up is these actually have bolts to hold down some type of ring terminal. So what I went ahead and did is, knowing that this was the bolt on the sensor that has to go right to the terminal, I was able to just bolt that right to the terminal this way, similar to the original configuration. And then I use a ring terminal on this side for the to where the body ground actually goes. So that actually turned out kind of nice. I still don't like the sensor. I think I don't think it's really critical in car design, but I guess that's what they're doing nowadays. So then the last thing I have to do now is I have to extend this sensor wire because it won't reach to plug in.